Welcome to another episode of Eat, Smoke, Drink. Today's going to be a slightly strange review. I'm going to review Tasmanian whiskey. Not just any Tasmanian whiskey, Fannys Bay Distillery. They've had quite a good reputation out there in the market, won a couple of awards. Very, very small craft distillery, I've never tried these before, and there is no age statement on these, just the barrel, the percentage. So we've got the pinot noir barrel here, which is 58%. We've got the sherry at 53.4%, and we have the shiraz at 47%. This particular distillery does a lot of smaller barrels. Most craft distilleries actually do smaller barrels because it ages faster, it imparts flavor faster, more wood contact, and so they can then move product a lot quicker and get that cash flow. But like I said, I've never tried this before, so let's see how it goes. These are 100ml bottles, and you get the bigger bottles as well, so it's available on their website, but let's see how it goes. So these whiskies are non-chill filtered, straight from the cask, non-coloured, and look at the differences in colour. I mean, that is just astonishing. Look at that difference in colour. So I always love seeing the different kind of colour influences barrels make. But let's start with the pinot, sherry, then the shiraz. No particular order, I'm just tasting it and nosing it as I get through. So let's have a smell. You get distinct pinot influence in there. Condensed berries, condensed jam, sweetness, a slight hint of white pepper, black pepper, slightly black pepper. A very nice smell. Quite a clean smelling pinot. So the first impression I've never nosed these before, never tasted this before. It doesn't have some of that, like sometimes when I've had pinot casks before, just like most wine casks, it has a little bit of a funk to it. The nose is quite clean. Strange as it sounds, it smells like incense, a little bit of that incense waft when you go to like an Asian temple. Slightly floral, but general sweetness, white sugar syrup, condensed berries. And I'm getting a distinct smell of a slight yeastiness in there as well, maltiness as well. So the pinot, let's taste. Condensed berries. That's quite a potent whiskey. Now there's not age statement in that, but I'm surprised. I'm pleasantly surprised at the barrel uptake of that for no age statement. Condensed berries, a bit of earthiness. The spirit itself, the way it's distilled, has a distinct flavor to it. Medicinal, herbal, a bit like a dried shiitake mushroom, an umami. There's an inherent umami, a ripe banana, slightly fruity, but definitely a condensed berry jam or condensed berry compote. Look, you know what? Right in the back end, I can taste a little bit of a younger spirit taste, but that's not a bad thing necessarily because it does add that zestiness to it. But I am curious to see how old that actually is, because if someone was to put it in front of you, you wouldn't be able to say that it is a younger whiskey. I know it is a younger whiskey because it's not age statement. You wouldn't not put an age if it's not a younger whiskey. But that is just an interesting thing in itself. But so far, that is not a bad one. Let's smell the sherry. Now, for a sherry, that's actually quite light. So I'm thinking maybe it's a second fill sherry. Perhaps a second fill sherry, I'm not sure. But at the same time, there's no age statements, and I would presume that they are on the younger side, which means that maybe that's why the sherry isn't as dark as it usually would be. A marzipan smell on the sherry. The sherry is not very prominent. I'm not getting that Christmas cake spice. I'm getting a marzipan smell. Freshly hot baked bread, which is really strange. It's got like a bready smell to it, like a hot, freshly baked bread. Really unusual. Lemon zest, a bit zesty. Lemon rind, 100% lemon rind. I'm definitely getting it there. That's quite unusual. That's not usually the hallmarks of a sherry cask. So I don't know what that is, but I'm getting a slight smokiness to it as well. So that's for a sherry cask. That is definitely unusual. The sherry, let's taste. The sherry has a sickly sweet to it, a hint of brown sugar, white sugar syrup. It also has that. It also has that herbalness, that medicinal nature that the Pinot has, and I think that's just the distillation style and the fermentation style. So that's quite interesting. That's very interesting. Every style, every region has their own thing, and it looks like a herbal medicinal note to this is the theme with the base spirit. This would all be the same base spirit, just different barrels. So that's quite an interesting thing in itself. With the sherry, the uptake of the barrel flavor is a little bit, I think it's a little bit less and slower than these ones here. I can definitely taste the new make spirit on this versus this. This one you can barely taste it, only if you really, really think about it. This one is a little bit more pronounced. I'll take you through which one I prefer the most, but the sherry cask I think is a little bit light on the barrel influence there. In saying that, it's also a light whiskey. So if you like lighter whiskies and lighter flavored whiskies, then so far these two, the sherry cask is going to be your best bet. But definitely the herbal note, the ripe banana, is something that flows between the two. And I believe this is a lot, 53% versus 58%. A slight earthiness in the back palate, hay, creamy. Not bad, not bad. Once again, I'm curious to know the age of that, but it's I mean, small barrels, it's a wonder what they do. And you know what I love about it, and I'll take you through that later. Let's go to the Shiraz. So far the Shiraz has the most interesting nose. I'm getting herbal. I know this sounds weird, medicinal, a bit like a hint of Benadryl. I'm getting vanilla, rosemary, buttery, a bit of sage, condensed jam. Let's taste. Oh, by far, the Shiraz is going to be my favorite. I'd rank it as Shiraz, Pinot, and then Sherry as the last. Why? The Shiraz has a boldness to it. It's well balanced. It's savory, herbal, medicinal. It's got the right amount of sweetness. It's got earthiness. It's got a sharpness of flavor, but not too sharp. So you notice the flavor, but it's definitely a very compelling whiskey. The Shiraz. It's a little meaty as well. I've noticed with this particular spirit, like I said, everyone has a different style of how they make their spirits and how they ferment. But with these whiskies, the theme is herbal and medicinal in nature. They all have that underlying tone. And then the barrel selection is what makes it a great whiskey or an okay whiskey. I would rank the Pinot and the Shiraz pretty much equal. The sherry for me, it's a little bit lacking in punch. It's a little bit lacking in complexity. But when I describe that, it's my opinion. If you like a lighter whiskey, then the sherry is for you. It's too light for me. It doesn't have as much, the spirit way overpowers the barrel influence. So I don't mind sherry casks, but the sherry cask seems a bit light on this one. I like bourbon casks for that reason. It's because you can really taste the spirit. But in this case, it's a little bit confusing. Is it a bourbon cask or is it trying to be a sherry cask? You can taste the new make a little bit. With these two, the barrel involvement is exceptional. And like I said, no age statement, which means that it's relatively young. For something that is young with no age statement, I am completely surprised at the progression of these whiskies. Now, my take on the ABV, and this is what I love about it. 47% on this one, the Shiraz, and it is, I mean, surprisingly, the flavor is punchy as hell. But this one, it's 58%. This one is 53.4%. They don't muck around. So the ABV is designed so it doesn't muck around. I love that. Some people, they water it down and you're like, look, another 2 or 3%, 5% even. Let me decide what I like. But these ones, they just kind of give it to you in high ABV, except for this one, is at 47. It actually faded away during shipment. It got wet and faded away. So I hope I'm right with that 47%. But it doesn't taste like 47%, but I hope I'm right. Yeah, very compelling whiskies. And this just shows you that craft distilleries, they have to innovate, because they don't have the luxury of cheap rents in a warehouse like they did 100 years ago or 40 years ago. They have to make money ASAP. So innovation with smaller barrels is the key to craft distilleries. Unless, of course, you know, you're backed by a massive bottling company. You have to have smaller whiskies, smaller barrels to try and get your whiskey out faster. What excites me the most about this range is where to from here. Now, these are no age statements, but man, I'm looking forward to seeing some 12-year-olds out of these guys, 10-year-olds or 9-year-olds, because if you can make a no age statement with this, so I'm guessing it's probably sub 6 years old, sub 7 years old, then what does a 9-year-old or a 10-year-old taste like once it's developed? I'm also excited that once they've got their warehousing and whiskey right, maybe they're going to get into bigger barrelings. I don't know. If they've got a bigger barrel for a much slower maturation, I'm curious to know how that would go, because Tasmanian weather is very different to Scotland. So how would that go? Is that even possible? Maybe the angel share is too great in Tasmania because it gets quite hot there some parts of the year. So maybe that's not possible, but hey, who knows? Packaging wise, very well presented, great little square bottles, heavy bottoms. In fact, when I'm finished with them, I'm actually going to keep these bottles and I'm going to use them as sample bottles. It's quite cool. Look at that. So that's well packaged. Look at that. They can stack perfectly. How cool. So anyway, thank you very much for joining me today. My first Tasmanian distillery review. And as I get more, I will try to review a bit more as well. And until next time, make sure you eat, smoke, drink. Website for Fannys Bay is at the bottom of the video if you want to check them out and find out more about them. Until then, cheers.